were shopping for a Harley, those guys wouldn't take you seriously. And that's when you said, I'm going over and buying a cow.
Yep.
Kawasaki Z1 900. This bike started it all for so many. Well, it also helped catapult Top Fuel motorcycle legend Sam Wills into becoming one of the fastest men in the world. We're gonna check out this bike. We got a lot of stories to tell. Sit back, relax, motorcycle fans. Let's go.
Hey guys, this is WWE superstar Zack Ryder, and when I'm not winning championships or collecting action figures, I'm on YouTube watching Cycle Drag and going to cycledrag.com.
Cycle Drag Universe, we're on that grind. We're on that quest to bring you the absolute best, most impressive motorcycles we can find. Today, we are in Oklahoma City, Oklahoma, home of Sam Wills Racing. This man is a legend. He just moved into a new shop. He is one of the members of the 5 Second Club when it comes to Top Fuel motorcycles. He's been 588. He's one of the fastest in the world. He also has just stunning stock original Z1 900 he's putting together. We got to talk about. He's recovering from a terrible shop accident where he broke his femur. We're going to get into that. He also used to make the chassis for Orange County choppers. We're going to ask him a little bit about that. We got a lot to see. This shop is amazing. Sit back, settle in, relax, and let's go. Whoa, this is not your typical motorcycle shop. This looks more like an art studio. Kudos to Sam. He found himself some nice new digs. Oh, he's behind the vault. It's like a bank. It's behind the vault. Let's see what's in here. Oh. Oh my. Are you guys seeing what I'm seeing? I think we came to the right place. My goodness. Jeez. Hot rods, pro mods, sprint cars, junior dragsters, all kind of toys. And look what is back there. And there it is, guys. 588, 243. This bike's something to see. This shop is something to see. Let me see if I can find. There he is, ladies and gentlemen. The legend himself. The man who has been in this business for what, about 50 plus years.
Oh God, yes. One
One of the fastest in the world. First off, Sam, I'm so glad you're okay. We heard the terrible news about you breaking your femur. How's the recovery going?
Recovery's going good. It's a long-term thing. It's longer than I expected. It's not just a simple broken bone. I've got a 16.5-inch rod in my femur. I've got 2 breaks in the femur, and then it broke the hip, so I've got an 8-inch pin in the hip, and then a handful of screws in the knee. But it's not that big a deal, except that I'm old.
Well, quit jumping off of ladders when you're trying to change light bulbs. I'm so glad you're okay.
Yeah, it is definitely getting better.
And I can tell being in this shop probably lifts your spirits. This place is like the Taj Mahal. How'd you end up here?
This is an old friend of mine, Todd Martin. He actually won a championship with IDBA in Funny Bike back in like 91. And I built that bike, and he was the 3rd owner of it. But we've known each other for years. He also owns a Tulsa racetrack. And this is where he keeps his stuff. He runs a Pro Mod car, and he wanted to keep his transporter inside so it didn't weather. And he had some extra space, and he offered me the space, and I'm in a transition. I'm gonna build a building out at my property up north of here, and it'll be a couple of year project, so I needed a place to put everything, and he was kind enough to let me in.
Well, you've done a great job setting it up, so let's dive in. I know that much like some of our other friends out there, you've worked hard, you've made your money, the career's winding down, and now you're like, I don't want to work on customer stuff, I want to work on my own stuff.
It's gotten to the point, I went through a period of time that it just wasn't enjoyable working on customer stuff, and I have enough race stuff to do, so I'm just going to do race stuff because it makes me happy.
I love it. I love it. Well, another thing that makes us real happy is old school Kawasaki's, especially Z1s. So we got one up on the lift right now. I saw it 3 years ago when I was here and it needed a lot of TLC. Now, man, is it close. And this is such a cool story because not only did the Z1 mean so much to the drag bike world, you personally, this is kind of the bike that kicked it off for you.
Absolutely.
Let's go take a look at this thing. Oh, here it is, Kawasaki fans. I hope the beauty, I hope the prestige, I hope the lineage of this motorcycle is just jumping right through your smartphone, jumping right out at your TV. That's not reproduction paint, that's stock paint. In fact, just about everything on this bike, if not everything, is original. Sam?
It is all original. It's taken me 5 years to get enough parts together to be able to try to complete it. The final thing is the pipes. I don't have a good set of stock exhaust pipes, and I'm trying to find a set over in Australia. Got some friends over there looking for me, and then it would be 100% complete.
We're gonna give you a full tour of this motorcycle in just a second, but first, I think the story is so cool, right? I want you to take me back to the year 1973 when you were shopping for a motorcycle. And back then, just like today, you know, you had choices, a Harley, a V-twin, or do you get one of these new crazy creations from Kawasaki? Tell me this story.
Well, in all honesty, I was intending on buying a Harley Sportster. Had money in my pocket, went to Adamix Harley Davidson in Jacksonville, Florida, and they wouldn't even talk to me. I was 18, 19 years old, long hair, surfer kid, and they just weren't interested in me. So I went across the street, Regency Kawasaki, and they were uncrating a first Z1. It's the first one in the building. And Bo Brockta was a parts manager at the time, and he wanted to buy it, but he didn't have the money on him, and I bought it on the spot. And that's how Bo and I got to be friends. Yeah, and I didn't have anything to do with Harleys again until probably the middle 90s, and then we got involved in the chopper world.
They didn't realize, despite the long hair, you had a few bucks in your pocket.
Exactly.
Right?
Exactly.
And speaking of chopper, we're going to talk about chopper world in a little bit too, because you work closely with Orange County Choppers and others with your amazing chassis development. But first, if you could, give me a tour of this motorcycle from nose to tail and everything you've done with the restoration.
Well, this bike had been sitting outside literally for 20 years, and the gentleman father offered it up to a friend of mine for $500 because he didn't want to spend the money on rebuilding the carburetors. And I jumped at it, and when I went to pick it up, he said, well, I talked to my son, and he said it was worth more money than that. I said, well, you told me that price, and I said, I'll double it right now, but I need the title and I need it now. And he went ahead and did it. So I've actually had the motorcycle probably closer to 8 years, sat for a number of years because we were busy doing other stuff. And then I started collecting parts to make it back alive. And actually some of the parts that are on it are chromed. They'll be replaced with polished parts because they weren't chromed original. And I'm trying to put it all back original. So I have all the parts, it just hasn't been finited. And we rebuilt the carburetors, we rebuilt the motor. The thing came down completely to nothing and started over from scratch, rebuilt the front end, just nose to tail, everything on it. It's like a brand new bike.
You've done a fine job, and let me beat the folks in the comments to the punch. If you need somebody to sell the chrome parts to, please give me a call because I love original, I also love the resto rods. I want to ask you about the engine because you being a drag race guy, what do you do when you rebuild one of these engines? Do you use stock parts or do you use some of the aftermarket?
This was the hardest thing for me because I've got a bunch of hot rod race parts I could have put in it, and I had to stick with stock. And yes, it's stock pistons, stock rings. It's just all freshened up. I had to put guides in it because these were notorious for wearing the guides out. And other than that, it's stock everything.
And what's so cool about the Z1 is it really paved the way for you to get into 4-cylinder top fuel motorcycle racing, which you did in 1975 with an awesome machine.
Well, it wasn't actually a top fueler, it was a B fueler.
B fueler, thank you.
Which is a normally aspirated injected fuel bike, but it actually, we ran, I had a B gas dragster, and I was working for Ken Tipton at MTC when he was still in California, and a guy kept coming in the shop that was an old funny car guy, and he said, you need to put fuel in it, you know, you're wasting your time on gas. And the best I'd ever run on that bike was like 1016, and this is 1975. We found a set of injectors, cut them to space it for a Kawasaki motor, and went to Fremont to HDRA race and went 898 first time out with the same everything, just fuel in it. And I never ran anything but fuel since then. So that was the start of Top Fuel.
Well, it's really amazing how far you've come. You've put on one heck of a show. 588, 243. Your bike is always a head turner. If you could possibly describe to people out there what it feels like to go that quick and that fast.
I would honestly say that the speed is more intense than the ET. I love the ET. There's nothing like a straight hard launch. Bike will pull roughly 4 Gs on the launch, and that's never given me an issue. As we keep going faster and faster and faster, that's maybe it's because I'm getting older now, and I know I can't see for shit at night.
Those guys are fearless. How old are you now, Sam?
I'm 66.
66. Okay, so you know, hey, we know Paul Gast is still out there.
Paul Gast is my hero.
He's my hero too. You got the Greek over in the NHRA world. He just won't stop. So we know careers don't last forever, but we know you still have time. What would you really like to do? What's the ultimate goal?
Fly the space shuttle, but I don't think that's going to happen.
Sure. Well, you pretty much have a space shuttle in your motorcycle eclipsing 250 miles.
You know, I just enjoy the racing aspect of it and being part of it. And there's so few of us left, and I don't know if there'll ever be another crop of top fuelers, because it is extremely expensive and a lot of times consumed, and I just don't know if everybody wants to do that at this point. So maybe it's towards the end. I'm glad I was involved in it.
It is. We hope, I hope, a lot of us hope that it's not the end of an era. It's not, we hope you guys aren't a dying breed, because I truly believe.
Keyword, you can't say dying.
Well, yeah, nobody's. I don't want to send anybody to the graveyard here. We want everybody to live to 100 years old. But we know that even Larry McBride has said that he realizes that as much as he loves it, getting older and things.
There are other things in life.
The body's going to decline a little bit, and when the body declines, you don't want to be going 265 miles an hour on 2 wheels.
Yes.
So we know that that's a real possibility, but the question is, and we've talked about this emphatically with Mitch Brown and Dave Vantine and all these wonderful people involved, is how do we keep this sport going? How do we get that next group of guys in there, considering the amount of money it costs you and the amount of work that it takes? How do we keep this great art form alive?
I honestly don't know the answer to that, because through the years I've thought about that and worried about it, and I actually did retire for about 15 years back in the 90s and got back in it, and I knew better, and the amount of money I spent getting back up to speed from being retired for a while was enormous. And I do all my own work. I build the chassis, I do all the machine work, I build the motors, I do everything. And I can't imagine having to pay somebody to do that for me.
It's astronomical.
It's just astronomical. So it's a tough deal, but I wouldn't run anything but fuel. I'm sorry, I'm spoiled. I would not be happy riding a slower bike. And not to say anything bad about anybody else, you know, everybody has to ride something, and you have to go, but this is, to me, is the pinnacle, and I'm glad I'm here, and I'd hoped it would go on, but I don't know that it will. We'll just have to wait and see.
Well, we're going to try our best. Motorsports in general is in a tough spot right now when you hear about people like John Force not even being able to get the same money that he used to be able to get. But my goal has always been try to get you guys on a bigger stage, try to get the television, try to get you to races where there's 40,000 people in the stand. And I think with the inroads that we've made with NHRA, with Bill Bader and the Norwalk Night Under Fire, I think the future is bright in that regard.
I would think so, yes. I'm optimistic.
And that's all we can ask.
Glad to be part of it.
Well, speaking of optimistic, you also have your good buddy Mitch Brown's bike in here. Mitch is a great up-and-comer doing a wonderful job. What a race. We're bar to bar. It looks like a couple of bracket bikes. 609 to 610. Mitch Brown takes the win. What a race.
609. How about it, guys? How about it?
Yeah.
Wow, that was a drag race.
That was a great race with Sam.
Side by side.
All the way.
How about it? Congratulations. My goodness, congratulations to Mitch Brown. The weekend just keeps getting sweeter.
What a race between Sam and Mitch. My goodness, congratulations, Mitch. Let's take another look at what has to be one of the closest races in Top Fuel motorcycle history. 123 to 121 off the line, with Sam with a 0.02 of a second advantage. Sam's better to 60 feet, 105 to 112, but Mitch Brown brought on the back half. 609.3 beats a 610. 232 miles an hour for Mitch, 229 miles an hour for Sam.
2020 Man Cup Top Fuel Championship. Boy, did these guys step up big on race day.
What are you doing to Mitch's bike right now?
Basically, I'm behind because of my fall, but we're just adding some new things. I'm building a new set of exhaust pipes. I'm not going to go radical like Larry with the laydown pipes, but it does need a little bit bigger exhaust system on it. And we're just changing the whole way the fuel system works. I know he's been talking to Jaska and other people, so I'm just mounting everything, and then they're going to have to figure it out.
And Sam, this is cool. We know that Mitch is an expert machinist. He has the popular monster cylinder head, and looks like Mitch is even making his own cases now.
He is. This is the first prototype set of cases. I just finished building the bottom end where I'm going to assemble an all fresh motor, so he has an extra spare motor out of it. But yeah, this is the original, the first one.
Well, Sam, last time I was with you, we talked about how Orange County Choppers was a major client of yours. In fact, you produced more than 200 chassis for the unbelievable choppers that we saw out of there. And you told us about some of the crazy deadlines about how a chassis would have to be from Oklahoma to New York in just days. Well, what we wanted to tell are some of the stories where you conquered the impossible, and maybe we're asked to do some things that were a little unrealistic. Tell me about the craziest thing that Tuttle's asked you to do.
Probably the hardest bike that we ever built for them was a snap-on, because Paul wanted the chassis made out of hex, and they don't make hex tubing. So I ordered 1.25" 1018 solid in hex, and we found a company in Oklahoma that built hydraulic cylinders and had it gun drilled to make tubing out of it. And then in bending it, it killed 3 sets of dies because of the sharp edges. And then we had to heat it and twist it with a wrench to line all the lines up, because as you bent it, it would roll. So the lines weren't in line with each other. And we ended up building 2 of those chassis because they wanted one for the East Coast and one for the West Coast. And that was the most expensive chassis ever built. That was about $10,000 for the chassis.
Gosh, when you first heard about the project and what they wanted to do, what was your initial reaction?
It didn't bother me until I realized that they didn't make hex tubing, and then I had to figure out a way to make hex tubing. And that was the hardest part.
And what was the end result? What was the impression that the Tuttles had after looking at your work?
They loved all that, but I don't even know if they realized how much work it was to do. They realized it was more expensive than most of the chassis, but I don't think they really realized what it took to do it.
What was the second hardest project they ever put you on?
We built an aluminum chassis for the Guggenheim Museum that after the World Trade Center that was going to be on permanent display. And aluminum is a lot fun to work with, but it's not the right thing to build a chopper chassis out of.
I can understand that. I bet you ran into a whole lot of problems and a whole lot of pitfalls.
Well, the thing is you got to understand, most of their bikes were not designed to be ridden, especially a bike like that. Intentionally, it's more art than it is a motorcycle. So it wouldn't have lived very long on the street. Aluminum chassis with no heat treating or anything is not a good chopper chassis, and especially for a Harley motor.
I love the bikes that they build, and I love the legacy that those gentlemen have, and I think it was a great, entertaining show. What I do want to say, and this is no disrespect to them, expanding on what you just mentioned, Now we're seeing these bikes uncovered at auctions for 5, 6, 7, 8 grand.
They're only worth what somebody's willing to pay for them.
And you're talking about builds that were 6 figures.
Well, the whole scenario behind the deal is they charge, I think it was $150,000 for a bike, but that got you an hour advertisement on national TV in syndication. So that's the cheapest advertisement you could possibly do. So the bikes that were built for Caterpillar or Snap-on or anything else were advertisement. That's what you paid for. Not the fact that it was a $150,000 motorcycle, but it was $150,000 worth of advertisement.
You've been in this business a long time. You've seen a lot of trends come and go. It seems like the chopper scene has really cooled off. You think it'll ever be back?
Probably. It's like a porpoise. It keeps surfacing. You know, everybody realizes choppers don't stop, they don't handle, they don't do anything other than look cool in front of the bar. You know, it's not a real motorcycle, it's a fantasy.
Well, if you go to Bike Week and you sit on Main Street, which we did this year on a Friday, which is some of the greatest entertainment and people watching and motorcycle watching ever, you realize that the big wheel bagger has really replaced the chopper. What are your thoughts on that? Is that trend here to stay, or is that just a come and go?
Because people will take say a 2010 bagger and spend $50,000-$60,000 on it. When they go to sell it, it's worth $8,000 because you can't get paid for customizing. The bank only recognizes the fact that it's a 2010 Harley and it's 10 years old, 11 years old.
Why do you think we're not seeing some of the crazy stuff we saw in terms of ground up builds and custom bikes in the bagger world that we saw over in the chopper world? Now I know there's an awful lot of customization.
Oh, you do in the bagger world, Allie. But the thing is at some point it runs its course because people are spending all this money on it and they can't get the money back out of it. You know, it's one thing to take a loss on driving a vehicle, but to take a 200% over cost loss is a little hard for some people.
One thing
and also I did the custom bike shows for years and years and years, and it's like anything else. You know, you have to want to do it because it's a pain in the butt.
So I think the moral of the story is if you want to customize a motorcycle, you need to also realize you're probably burning a little bit of money. It's not quite
not probably. You're burning money. It's just like having a nice boat at the lake. You burn $400 in gas every day.
That's right.
You're burning money.
And I think as a drag racer, you understand a thing or two about maybe destroying an engine in less than 5 seconds. That can happen, right?
Yes, absolutely.
So maybe it's just this curse, this lust we have for 2 wheels that we can't escape.
Well, you know, the choppers were cool, but then like everything else, it goes beyond. You know, it gets to where they're not motorcycles anymore because they don't stop, they don't turn, they don't do anything a real motorcycle does, but they look good. And the baggers took it to another notch because then you can have a giant stereo and listen to the stereo outside the bar.
Well, all right, I got to get your take on this because you correct me if I'm wrong, audio wasn't a big thing when Orange County choppers were around because it would have happened with all the different builds and how they ran out of ideas. Yes. They would have made a speaker bike for an audio company. Now we know audio is all the rage. There's sound competitions. I like it. I'm okay with it. Anything that promotes motorcycling, I'm okay with. What I don't like is when I go to Bike Week and 40 bikes pass me and there's 40 different songs and is probably the worst sound you could ever hear in your life. So I don't know what we do to prevent that, but what do you think about this audio craze?
It's like anything else. That's what the people want. That's what you give. I've got a good friend of mine here in town that owns an audio shop, and he puts audio on everything from motorcycles to boats. And he loves it because it's great business. But, you know, I have stereo on. I have a big dog bagger because that's what I raced at Bonneville, and I bought one, and I had him put a stereo on it, and 90% of the time I don't even have it on.
It's good to hear your engine too. You know, you also want to be alert enough to hear the sounds of the road and if there's any screeching tires behind you.
I've gone to many bike rallies to where you can hear somebody's stereo at highway speeds from 100 yards away. And that's just crazy.
Well, this has been an awesome trip down memory lane. Appreciate it, man. Thanks so much again for having me. I think the next step is we got to have a reunion with the Tuttles, yourself, Larry McBride. We almost made it happen a few years ago. We got them to the racetrack, but I think we got to bring them out to another race and give them a big whiff of nitro.
Absolutely.
Look who I found, one of the greatest promoters of all time, Mr. Bill Bader. Bill, we are getting so close to August 7th, the Kelly Night Under Fire. It's going to be awesome, and this year we will have motorcycles. How excited are you?
Very excited. We tried to pull that off last year, and we got preempted for a year, but you're going to see on Saturday of the Kelly Night Under Fire the quickest and fastest motorcycles on the face of Mother Earth, hanging on for dear life, going over 200 miles an hour, and certainly a centerpiece at that race, no doubt about it.
And how about this? Our world is improving. Fans in the stands,
Yes.
an audience for these great races.
All mask mandates, social distancing, and capacity restrictions are out the window, and free at last.
We are so excited. It's going to be awesome, guys. Make sure you get here. Tickets still available?
Tickets are going very quickly, and I know every promoter says that, right? But I fully expect that that event will be sold out in the next 30 to 45 days.
Oh, I agree with you. We were down in Gainesville earlier this year, and the pent-up demand was off the charts. We know it's going to be the same way here in the Northeast, and especially, are we bringing back the pound of ice cream as well?
Oh, of course, of course. We will have a pound of velvet ice cream for $1. 86 performers, 40,000 fans in the stands with blue sky and sunshine.
We better see you here, guys. August 7th, the Kelly Night Under Fire. Do not miss it. Summit Motorsports Park, Norwalk, Ohio. Ladies and gentlemen, he's got a limp. The poor man broke his femur in mid-February, but the legend Sam Wills is on the mend. And Sam, when I got this horrible news, after I found out you were okay, my second thought was, there's no way Sam's gonna be at the Norwalk Night Under Fire. Sam, where do we stand on this now?
I'll be cleared July 27th by my surgeon, and it shouldn't be a problem.
That is awesome, Sam. We're so excited to have you. How excited are you to get in front of this big crowd?
I'm ready. I'm ready to go. You know, it's like a long winter.
It's gonna be awesome. He deserves it. He's one of the quickest and fastest men in the world, the top fuel motorcycle icon, and all the other craziest, wildest, fastest motorcycle racers in the world will be in Norwalk August 7th. See you there, Sam.
All right, looking forward to it.
Guys, is this place awesome or what? I can't wait to send the world's quickest and fastest motorcycles down the launch pad here in Norwalk, Ohio. Make sure you're here. August 7th, Summit Motorsports Park. It is the Kelly Night Under Fire. Well, guys, was that awesome or what? Sam, I really want to thank you for having me into this amazing facility. We're so glad you're healing. We can't wait to see you back out there. And it really is truly remarkable how this 1971 Z1 900, the bike known affectionately as the New York Steak, really kind of started it all for you and helped launch this career and helped catapult you to one of the fastest men in the world.
Absolutely. It's been a fun road.
Do you ever look back and think, what if I would have bought that Harley?
Yes, I'd have been a lot slower.
Maybe spent a lot less money too. I don't know, right?
Well, back then we couldn't keep Harleys together on fuel.
Maybe to spend more money.
I'd have spent more money.
Who knows? Well, again, Sam, thanks so much. We really appreciate it. Guys, we hope you enjoyed this tour. This is awesome. Questions, comments, leave them down below. If you want to see some video of Sam in action, we have plenty of that. In fact, if you want another video, here's another one for you. Be a friend, tell a friend, hit subscribe right in the middle, and you know if there's anything fast motorcycles, we are in. Cycle Drag rolls on.